In 2026, most people won't lose money in the stock market first. They'll lose it in a quieter place, in their monthly payment, in their retirement adjustment, in the safe account that suddenly feels smaller every week because 2026 isn't just another year. It's a pressure year, a year when record-level interest, costs, and rolling debt collide with everyday life. And when that collision happens, the system doesn't announce it. It changes the rules and calls it stability. Tonight, I'm going to show you the 5-stage reset pattern, the same pattern that shows up across empires and modern states. Different flags, same machine. And at the end, I'll give you a calm, practical checklist, how to spot the stage you're in, and how to avoid the traps built for ordinary savers. Stay to the end because the biggest danger isn't inflation, it's what comes after inflation when safe becomes a cage. Let's start with the first stage. Stage 1 is the promise. A system tells you, don't worry, we can afford it. We can afford wars. We can afford benefits. We can afford growth without pain. We can afford debt without consequences. And for a while. It looks true, because the system learns how to make money feel cheap. In ancient empires, they weakened the coin, clipped the metal, mixed in cheaper alloys, kept the face of the coin the same, while the value quietly changed. In modern systems, we don't shave coins, we expand credit. Credit is money's shadow. It spends like money. It moves like money. It creates the feeling of abundance, but it is still a claim on the future. Stage 1 feels like progress because the future is being sold cheaply. You get rising home prices, rising markets, easier loans, a sense that stability is permanent. And then the system teaches a dangerous belief that the promise is real, that the future will always be able to pay for the past. Stage 2 is expansion. This is where the promise becomes addictive. Cheap money changes the behavior of everyone. Governments borrow because it's painless. Companies borrow because it's rewarded. Families borrow because why not? And investors stop asking, is it worth it? And start asking, will it keep going? Stage 2 builds a world where normal life depends on credit. Your home price becomes part of your identity. Your retirement becomes a stock chart. Your safety becomes a portfolio. And the system trains the population with one silent lesson. Save less. Borrow more. Assume tomorrow will be easier than today. At the top of Stage 2, you always hear the same phrases. This time is different. The central bank has it under control. Real estate always comes back. The system is too important to fail. Those phrases aren't stupidity. They're Stage 2 language, because Stage 2 is a sugar rush, and sugar rushes don't feel dangerous. They feel normal, until your body needs more and more just to stay the same. That's what happens in an expansion built on debt. Debt stops being a tool. Debt becomes the engine. And once debt becomes the engine, the system can't tolerate real discipline. It can only tolerate delay. That's how you slide into Stage 3. Stage 3 is strain. This is where the bill begins to show up. Not the full bill, just enough to make the system nervous. Strain is when the cost of keeping the promise rises. Interest costs rise. Refinancing gets harder. Defaults creep up. Banks tighten. Markets become jumpy. And ordinary people feel it like this. Prices stay high. Payments rise. Raises lag. Savings feel weaker. And everything becomes uncertain at the same time. Stage 3 has a specific signature. The system becomes obsessed with one question: who will absorb the debt? Because in Stage 2, debt is easy to roll. In Stage 3, debt becomes heavy. And 2026 matters because Stage 3 is a timing problem. In every cycle, there is a period where old debts mature, and the system must renew its promises. If money is cheap, that renewal is easy. If money is expensive, renewal becomes pressure, and pressure always leaks into daily life. Now I want to give you a scene, because scenes hold attention better than theories. Imagine a pension fund manager in a plain office. No drama, no conspiracy, just a calendar and a liability schedule. A giant wall of future payments, retirees who were promised checks every month for decades. On the other side, the assets that must fund those checks. When rates were near zero, the math was brutal. They needed risk to survive. They reached for markets. When rates rose, the math changed, but not cleanly. Because now long bonds swing hard, banking stress appears, rules shift, and the pension manager starts hearing a new phrase: de-risk, stabilize, match liabilities, protect the system. That's stage 3. Now imagine a homeowner, not a speculator, a normal person. They didn't bet. They simply bought a house inside the rules they were told were normal. Then the mortgage resets, or the property taxes jump, or insurance spikes, or utilities rise. They don't feel a crisis. They feel a slow tightening. That's stage 3. Now here is the mistake most people make in stage 3. They assume the system will return to stage 2, that rates will fall fast, that inflation will vanish, that the old comfort will return. Sometimes it does for a short while. But stage 3 is different from stage 2 in one crucial way. The system's options shrink because every rescue increases debt. Every increase in debt makes rescue more expensive. And the more expensive rescue becomes, the more extreme the next policy has to be. So stage 3 forces a choice between bad options. And when bad options are all that remain, you enter stage 4. Stage 4 is reset. This word scares people because they imagine one dramatic day. But the most common reset is not one day. It is a sequence of rule changes. A reset is what happens when the old promise cannot be honored in the old way. So the system chooses how to reduce real burdens. History shows a short menu: default, inflation, financial repression, forced conversions, controls, or a mix. You don't need to assume anyone is evil. You just need to accept arithmetic. If obligations are too large, something must give. Sometimes the give is obvious. Default. A bond isn't paid, a bank closes, a currency breaks. But in advanced systems, the give is often quieter. Inflation reduces the real value of debt. Rates are held below inflation for long periods. Rules encourage or force safe allocations. Taxes shift. Benefit formulas change. Retirement ages move. Reporting and restrictions grow. And every one of those moves is sold as protection. Temporary, necessary for stability. That is the reset language. Now let me give you another scene. A government official stands at a podium and says, "We must protect retirees. We must protect the banking system. We must protect stability." And behind those words is the real priority. The debt structure must survive. Because if the debt structure breaks, promises collapse all at once. And systems fear sudden collapse more than slow decline. So the system chooses survivability, and slow decline is survivable. That's why stage 4 often feels like confusion. People say, nothing happened, and yet life is smaller. Savings don't grow. Purchases get postponed. Retirement feels less certain. Your plans stop matching reality. That's the reset working. Stage 5 is the new rules. This is where the system rebuilds calm. Markets may recover. Inflation may cool. Headlines may turn optimistic. But stability returns with conditions. New rules for banks. New rules for pensions. New rules for taxation. New rules for what counts as safe. New rules for what you are allowed to do quickly. And stage 5 carries the quiet trap. People see stability and assume the old world is back. But the old world isn't back. A new contract has been written. And the people who played the old game perfectly, steady saving, fixed income, retirement planning, are often the ones who feel betrayed because the new rules rarely reward patience. They reward proximity to the pipes. They reward leverage at institutional rates. They reward assets that cannot be printed. They reward people who can pass costs forward. The losers are paid last, in wages, in fixed income, in savings. Now, let's make this practical. What does this mean for 2026? It means two truths can exist at the same time. There may not be a dramatic crash. And the middle class can still be squeezed, because the most dangerous resets are the ones that happen without a single dramatic day. A slow reset is still a reset. So how do you recognize the stage in real life? You watch 5 areas: essentials, debt costs, jobs, returns, rules. Essentials. When the unavoidable category keeps rising, that's a stage 3 and stage 4 signal. Debt costs. When refinancing becomes a permanent problem, the system is in strain. Jobs. When hiring slows and layoffs rise while prices remain high, strain is deepening. Returns. When safe returns can't keep up with reality, savings become fuel. Rules. When new measures arrive labeled as temporary, watch carefully. Temporary measures are the fingerprints of stage 4 turning into stage 5. Now, I promised you a checklist. Here it is. This is not personal financial advice. This is a pattern-based defense plan. The principle is simple. Flexibility beats prediction. You do not need to predict 2026 perfectly. You need to be harder to trap. 7 moves. Move 1. Build oxygen. A real buffer for essentials. Cash is not a growth asset. It's survival time. And time is power in a reset. Move 2. Kill fragile debt, especially debt that can reprice, especially debt that depends on refinancing. In stage 2, debt is easy. In stage 3 and 4, debt becomes a chain. Move 3. Simplify complexity. If you don't understand it, it isn't safe. Complex products are not designed to protect you. They're designed to be sold. Move 4. Avoid single-point failure. Don't place your future in one institution, one currency, one counterparty, one promise. Diversification is not only about asset classes, it's about access and resilience. Move 5. Own some real-world stability. Health, skills, repairability, community. Multiple income streams if possible, because in resets, the people who suffer most are those who can only survive under the old rules. Move 6. Respect duration risk. Long-term assets swing harder when rates move. You don't need to fear bonds to understand this. You need to know what you own and how it behaves when the regime changes. Move 7. Watch rule changes, not headlines. Headlines are entertainment. Rules are reality. Tax changes, retirement rule updates, bank regulation shifts, reporting requirements, movement restrictions. Those tell you which stage you're entering. One more warning. Reset eras are scam eras. When people feel uncertainty, they crave certainty. And scammers sell certainty. Guaranteed. Secret. Only safe asset. Elites use this. Real safety is boring. It does not demand you act today. It does not promise perfection. Now let's close with the core message. 2026 is not about one apocalypse. It's about the end of one set of rules and the birth of another. If you keep playing stage 2 behavior, maximum leverage, blind trust, you'll feel trapped. If you shift to a stage 4 mindset, liquidity, simplicity, flexibility, you'll be hard to trap. That's the goal, hard to trap. So here's my question to you. If the rules change in 2026, are you still safe? Or are you only safe under the old rules? In the next video, we can apply the same 5-stage pattern to one specific battleground, pensions, housing, or the currency itself. Because once you see the machine, you can spot it everywhere. And once you can spot the stage, you stop getting surprised. And that's exactly how ordinary people survive a reset. Before you go, I want to make the pattern painfully concrete, because most people hear reset and picture one dramatic day. A crash, a bank run, a headline. But the reset that destroys the middle class is usually quieter. It's a reset of behavior, a reset of options, a reset of what life costs, and what your money is allowed to do. So let me give you 3 traps that appear in almost every stage 3 and stage 4 environment. Not theory, not politics. Traps. Trap 1, the payment trap. This is where the system stops taking from you through a dramatic loss and starts taking from you through a steady monthly drain. Your payment becomes the weapon. Mortgage, rent, insurance, utilities, car loan, credit card interest, property taxes, health expenses. Each one rises a little, not enough to start a revolution, just enough to cancel your breathing room. And once breathing room is gone, choices collapse. You stop investing, you stop saving, you stop upgrading your skills, you stop moving to better opportunity, you stop saying no. That's what a payment trap really is. It's not bankruptcy, it's captivity. Because when your monthly obligations eat your flexibility, the system doesn't need to take anything. You hand it over month after month just to stay alive. Trap 2, the safety trap. This one is brutal because it punishes good people. People who followed the rules, people who worked, people who saved, people who avoided risk. In stage 2, safe feels noble. Cash, bonds, fixed income, pension promises, savings accounts. But in stage 3 and stage 4, safe can become a cage. Because a safe asset is only safe in nominal terms. It can keep paying. While your purchasing power collapses, it can preserve your statement balance while your life gets smaller. And that's the most humiliating kind of loss. Not a crash you can point to, A slow bleed you can't prove. You wake up 1 year later and realize the same money buys less life, less food, less comfort, less future. That's the safety trap. And it's why Stage 4 doesn't need a dramatic day. It just needs time. Trap 3. The confidence trap. This is the one that ends people. Stage 3 creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes humans desperate for certainty. So the market fills with certainty sellers, a new guaranteed investment, a secret strategy, a private group, a miracle asset, a man in a suit with a chart and a promise. And the promise is always the same. You can skip the pain. You can outrun the reset. You can win without sacrifice. That's the confidence trap, because the reset era is when ordinary people want one clean answer. And there is no clean answer. There is only resilience. There is only flexibility. There is only being harder to trap. Now, here's the part that matters for 2026. Most people will not be ruined by a single event. They will be ruined by a sequence that looks like normal life getting slightly harder every quarter for years. So I want to give you a simple way to think about 2026 without trying to be a prophet. 4 questions. If you can answer these 4 questions honestly, you will understand the direction of the system better than most commentators. Question 1. Are essentials rising faster than incomes? Not are prices up. That's too vague. Are essentials, things you cannot avoid, rising faster than the money you can earn? If yes, pressure is building. Pressure changes behavior. Behavior changes politics. And politics changes rules. Question 2. Is refinancing becoming a permanent issue? Not for one person, for the system. If refinancing stress keeps coming back, the system isn't in a temporary storm. It's in a new climate, and a new climate forces Stage 4 tools. Question 3. Is safety failing to keep up with reality? If safe returns can't defend purchasing power, then safe becomes fuel, and fuel eventually gets allocated, quietly, legally, through responsible policy. Question 4. Are the rules changing faster than the headlines? Headlines are emotional, rules are structural. If you see a world where rule changes arrive often and each one is described as temporary, you're watching Stage 4 becoming Stage 5 in real time. Now let's make it even more real with a story. Imagine 2 families, same city, same year, same economy. Family A did everything right. They have a pension expectation. They hold safe assets. They avoid risk. They follow the system. Family B is not richer. They are just more flexible. They have a cash buffer. They reduced fragile debt. They kept their lifestyle slightly below their means. They built a second income stream, even small. They kept their money simple. Now 2026 arrives, and nothing dramatic happens. No apocalypse, but the payment trap tightens. Insurance jumps. Utilities climb. Essential costs rise. Interest stays high enough to hurt, low enough to prevent cleansing. And the system speaks one sentence again and again. This is for stability. Family A feels betrayed because they did what they were told, and the reward was supposed to be safety. But safety became a cage. Family B doesn't feel rich. They just feel less trapped because they can say no. They can wait. They can adjust. They can move. They can renegotiate. They can absorb shock. That's the difference between surviving a reset and being processed by it. You don't survive by predicting. You survive by refusing to be cornered. Now let me give you the most important mental shift of all. In Stage 2, the main strategy is growth. More leverage, more assets, more exposure, more optimism. In Stage 4, the main strategy is optionality. More oxygen, more simplicity, more flexibility, more ability to do nothing when everyone else is forced to do something. Because in resets, forced action is where people get killed financially. Forced selling, forced refinancing, forced conversion into worse terms, forced taxes at the worst moment, forced withdrawal of savings just to pay essentials. So here's a practical exercise you can do after this video. Not a prediction, a stress test. Write down your forced actions. What would force you to sell assets in a bad month? What would force you to borrow at bad rates? What would force you to drain savings? What would force you to panic? Those are your vulnerabilities. And in 2026, the system doesn't need to defeat you. It only needs to press your vulnerabilities. because pressure is what stage 3 and stage 4 specialize in. Now, one more piece, and it's uncomfortable. In a reset, governments, institutions, and markets don't aim for fairness. They aim for survivability. That's why the language is always the same. We must protect stability. We must protect the system. We must be responsible. And again, you don't need to imagine evil. You only need to accept incentives. A system under debt pressure will always choose policies that keep the machine running. And if the machine must run, someone must carry the cost. And the easiest place to send the bill is to people who can't avoid it. Wage earners, savers, fixed income retirees, people with one income stream, people with fragile debt. The bill goes to the least mobile, least flexible, least connected. So if you want one sentence that summarizes this entire video, it's this: a reset is not about losing money, it's about losing options. And the way you defend yourself is not by chasing the perfect investment, it's by increasing your ability to choose. That's why the checklist matters. That's why simplicity matters. That's why oxygen matters. That's why killing fragile debt matters. Because in the next phase of this cycle, the winners are not the people who call the top. The winners are the people who don't get trapped. Now I'll end with one calm challenge. If you had to live for 6 months under slightly worse rules, higher essentials, tighter credit, more uncertainty, would you still be okay? Or would you be forced into bad decisions? You don't need to answer me. You just need to answer yourself. Because 2026 doesn't need to be the year you get scared. It can be the year you become harder to trap. And in the next video, we'll take one battleground, pensions, housing, or the currency, and we'll map exactly how the machine tightens the cage and exactly where the exits still exist.